Country Chevrolet is countrychev.com, online, worldwide. Brings you Carl's podcast, countrychev.com. Proud to be the studio sponsors of Carl's podcast.
Well, now this is Carl's Corner, and we're into the Entrepreneur's Corner here, and today we're going to be talking with an author who wrote a book called It's a Jungle in There. His name is Stephen Schussler, and he's put together some inspiring lessons, some hard-won insights, and other acts of entrepreneurial daring. Welcome to the program, Steve.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
So real quick, tell us about who you are and where you came from.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in New York City, New York. I left when I was 18 and went to school in Florida, Miami-Dade, which was a 2-year school. And from there through Chicago in television and radio broadcasting, and Miami, I wound up here in Minnesota and been here about 30 years.
Okay, wonderful. And you are not only an author, and you're an entrepreneur, and that started a long time ago in sales, but ultimately, from reading your book, I understand that your big feather in your cap is creating and building the themed restaurant, the Rainforest Cafe.
We like to say that we create attractions, restaurants, and retail stores. We build theatrical environments for attractions, restaurants, and retail stores worldwide, and we actually have our laboratories right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in Golden Valley.
And what happens in the laboratories?
Well, it's kind of like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It's pretty crazy. Every day we're in the process of creating. We like to say that we're the world's premier branding experts, and we have that trademarked. And a lot of people think that we just build vignettes for theatrical attractions and restaurants and retail stores, but we actually create the names, the taglines. We have them trademarked. Just for instance, Carl, we own the rights to Made on Earth. And if you could imagine that, there are many people out there in the world that would think that there's impossibility to ever have that trademarked. Same thing with Rainforest Cafe. They thought rainforests have been around here for tens of millions of years, and we would not be able to trademark that. And the same thing with T-Rex, which is an incredible attraction at Disney World in Orlando, which we created. We were told that you can't possibly trademark the name T-Rex. And we found that to be absolutely nonsense. And I talk about that in my book, by the way. I want to take a second and just say thank you very much for taking the time to have read the book. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But I like to give people lessons, and I think as an entrepreneur, and you have an entrepreneur's program, I think one of the most important lessons you could probably share with your listeners is the fact that you need to fail in order to succeed, and you need to be able to share your failures and talk about your failures with others.
Yes, it's a wonderful book, and we're speaking with Stephen Schussler. It's a jungle in there. He's an author and the founder of the Rainforest Cafe. Now, going back into your book, it started at an early age with you and your entrepreneurial desires, and you were a pool boy, so to speak, and you helped some people get various things, and you built that even into somewhat of a little business of your own, but learned a fast lesson about keeping your mouth shut about it. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, I still have a problem with keeping my mouth shut. That hasn't changed much because, when you're passionate about what you do, and in the book you remember that I use the word passionate quite a bit, but passion plus ambition yields success. Passion plus ambition yields success. It pays. P-A-Y-S. Passion, ambition, yields success. And it's a little line that I use almost every day of the week because there's a lot of people out there, Carl, that have ambition but no passion. or they have passion and no ambition whatsoever. And you really can't do a lot unless you have both. In my book, I talk about the 5 P's. I talk about personality, product, persistence, people, and philanthropy. And I like to say that I use that P, passion, the 6th P. And I think it's really important that people develop that passion. I started working at an early age because I decided that I wanted to have nice football equipment, nice cleats when I stepped on a football field. And my parents couldn't afford to pay for them; they were divorced, and so I decided that working would be a great thing. And it taught me a lot of morals. Working at an early age, besides the foundation of being able to have money to buy what you want, when you want, and where you want, despite the fact that your parents didn't have the money, was an incredible sigh of freedom and relief at an early age. You're able to teach yourself discipline and the rewards, to reap the rewards of working by being able to go out and purchase new equipment and new cleats. To me, that was an incredible awakening of what I had to go through for the rest of my life. So I've been working basically full-time since age 7 or 8 years old, either in part-time jobs or full-time jobs, helping to support myself through school. And I've taught myself a lot of life's lessons by doing so.
Yeah, you sure have. And the book is real interesting, specifically about you, but also giving ideas to entrepreneurs or people that don't even know that they are an entrepreneur, and that's what's wrong with them, to get out of that shell and move forward. One of the stories you shared, which I thought was really interesting, was that you did things out of the ordinary, like lock yourself inside of a barrel and have you delivered to somebody's office only to try to get a job. And those kind of ideas are the basis of how you build your business, but also how someone could take an idea like that and stand out from the crowd. And you really do a good job of telling people those stories so that they can think about their life as such.
Yes, I think it's very important. A lot of the ideas I have in my book, It's a Jungle in there, they're crazy ideas that people would think are just off the wall ways to stand out. But for me, they were calculated risks. Locking myself in a barrel, having 2 off-duty Miami-Dade police officers take me in a barrel with a salami sandwich and a Coke in case I had to stay overnight in a Superman costume, nevertheless, you would think is pretty brazen. But remember, I interviewed with this guy a couple of times, and I realized he had a sense of humor. And in radio and television broadcasting, everything is about timing. And, you like to have no dead air, and it's really important. And so I understood the pressures of the business, and I understood that he had a great sense of humor. And this guy, really liked me. So I figured a way to separate myself from everyone else in the pack that was vying for this job would be to break the monotony of the everyday pressure of the radio and television business and do something that was completely outside of the norm, but do it with a sense of humor and also a sense of class. Do something that people would never forget and say, that was brazen, that was cool, this is our guy. And I think, especially in today's competitive world, you really need to step out of the box and separate yourself from everyone else. And if you have to take that calculated risk and what you're doing is crazy, then so be it. Listen, I had a roommate who gave me $25 in cash, I think it was. I forgot the exact amount. I know it's in my book, and he gave it to me as bail money because he thought for sure that my stint and having myself delivered in a crate in a Superman costume to the general manager of a radio station in Miami, Florida, would end with me going to jail. Instead, by the way, you can't fix stupid. And I had myself delivered in that crate, in that Superman costume, to the general manager of WGBS Radio in Miami, Florida, and I forgot to put holes in the crate. So it was about 95 degrees outside in Florida, and I lost about 15 pounds in sweat on the way. I could hardly breathe, and I was praying to God, please don't let me die in the Superman costume. But at the end of the day, the general manager wasn't in. They called him back from a meeting he was in. He came back with his board of directors, opened up the crate. With my last breath, I came flying out like a jack-in-the-box. Pieces of the salami sandwich were flying everywhere. The empty can of Coke, which exploded all over me, hit some guy on the head. And I came flying out and said, "Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Schussler, and I am your new super salesman." And they thought it was the craziest thing they've ever seen. They threw their papers and their briefcases up in the air like it was, confetti on New Year's Eve. And they said, "Son, you're the sickest person we've ever met. You're hired. You're hired." And that was my first job in broadcasting. And just quickly, if you have a quick second, Carl, I'll tell the second story. I wanted to get into television broadcasting, and basically, I sent the chairman of the board of a company called Peters, Griffin, and Woodward in New York, a big toy boat, the kind you play with in your bathtub when you were a kid. And I put my resume in one of the smokestacks, and I had it sent UPS, and I said, "Please welcome me aboard," with a long letter and a resume. I wanted to get into the television broadcast business and be a rep. And the bottom line is I got the boat back about 3 weeks later with a note that said, "Your boat has leaks in it, but keep trying." So obviously this guy had a great sense of humor. I went out and bought life preservers and put them all around the boat, sent the boat back and said, "I'm your life preserver. Welcome me aboard. Your boat will float again." I got an airline ticket. I flew to New York City, got hired, and went to work in Manhattan as a rep, one of the top jobs in the country. So it takes being a little bit different, a little bit more forthright, and sometimes a little bit outrageous in order to separate yourself from everyone else and get that job. And if I could do it, so can everyone that's listening to this program.
Yes, this is what's interesting about the book. It's a jungle in there. As my guest is Stephen Schussler. Am I saying that right? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's Schussler.
Schussler. I won't say it again. Schussler. Stephen Schussler. And he's also the founder of the Rainforest Cafe and an entrepreneur. And as you're hearing here, just a guy full of great ideas. Now, let's go back a little bit to when you were starting the Rainforest Cafe, and you're building your prototype in your home because
yes.
you needed to get your vision to people that would finance it and support it and make it a reality. So you said, "What the heck, I'm going to take my home and start putting these things in there." And you did that, and you made quite an elaborate display, as it says in the book. I want to know, are you still in that home?
I'm still in that home. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to you from it right now, and I've been here 30 years. And, Lyle Berman, my savior, the gentleman that invested in my idea after, somewhat over 30 visits in 3.5 years, I decided to stay in this home because I didn't want to put my nose up in the air at my neighbors when the Rainforest Cafe finally made it. We built our first Rainforest Cafe October 3rd, 1994. And in 7 short years, we built 45 Rainforest Cafes around the world. And what's really cool and what's really interesting is that not only did we create the Rainforest Cafe right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but we also created T-Rex. It's a prehistoric family adventure, and Yak and Yeti at Disney World. And I might tell you on this podcast that you have in this Entrepreneurs program, we're the only ones in the world to have 3 attractions, restaurants, and retail stores at Disney World. And we just signed a deal to do a 4th. And we'll be opening up in March of 2015. I wish I could tell you the theme. I could tell you it will be at Pleasure Island in Orlando, Florida. Pleasure Island Orlando is now being transferred to a new name. It's going to